Hey everybody, welcome to my stream. My name is Robert Sell and I am a very frequent traveler. I did a previous video on traveling with the coronavirus, what it meant to us as travelers, and that was about 2 weeks ago. Since then, I've been traveling pretty much nonstop, and it's very interesting to see how our travel patterns have changed. There's a lot more regulation, especially if you're coming from China. I've seen that definitely. But even here in North America, it's really changed quite a bit, and it's evolving every day, it seems like. What I was going to talk about today was what that looks like, what precautions I'm taking. So in the previous video, we went through what you can do to just generally be more safe. That included washing your hands, having good hygiene, washing your face, wearing a mask, perhaps. And I think a lot of those things still apply, definitely, right? I think just to protect yourself from the flu and from just generally getting sick is a good idea. And as the situation has become worse in China, I find that I am taking all those precautions still, plus even more, and kind of just planning for some worst case scenarios. And I'm not saying that everybody would want to do this, but I think it's important for us to think about the pattern that we see here and what we see coming out of China, right? So if you're watching the map on the internet, seeing the real-time display of what the situation looks like, it's continuing to get worse. And I'm not sure if they've declared it a pandemic yet, but I mean, it's very close to that, right? And we look at the ratio for fatalities, and people say that's still pretty low, but that's if the numbers are correct. And we all know that those numbers are probably, if anything, low. So that would mean the fatality ratio is actually higher. So how much higher? Well, you don't build a bunch of hospitals within a week if it's not a concern. So I would say that we need to really pay attention to this. So what's going on now when I travel, and what do I plan to be looking at in the future? Well, now when I travel, I always have one of these in my bag. So this is the P95. That's a North American rating, P95. You might see P3 if you're in Europe, but P95 is a North American standard. You can buy these on Amazon. That's where I bought mine. What we're seeing now, of course, is if you didn't buy these already, these are now extremely expensive if you can even get them. And so that will probably continue for a while. I think that we probably have another few months of this sort of thing where these are going to continue to go up in price. So if you can't find them at a reasonable price on Amazon, then go to your local home hardware or whatever the company is that's nearby you to find some of these if you're going to travel. Because now I'm wearing these on the plane, and it's weird because I'm one of the few. When I go to an airport, especially in North America, almost nobody are wearing these. And I think that's a bit strange, because when you watch the videos of, in China and different parts of Asia, everybody's wearing these. And not only are they wearing these, they're wearing the surgical masks, which I've commented on, which are nowhere near as good, right? So the surgical masks are really to prevent the surgeons from sneezing or ejecting stuff out of their mouth onto the patients. And so it's to protect that way as opposed to inward, right? So I would not recommend a surgical mask. If that's all you have, then perhaps it's better than nothing. But I would highly recommend that you get something like this. The little valve, of course, is great because it makes these a little bit more comfortable to wear. Since my last video, I've discovered some things, though, on how to wear these masks, which I didn't know before, which may help you if you plan to wear one of these. So before I do get into that, first off, though, if you're going to wear one of these, which I recommend, and a lot of my friends now that travel for business with me, they're wearing these now, and they made fun of me initially when I would wear it, and it still is extremely awkward when you're wearing these on the plane, because you'll be one of the few right now. I think in the future we will see more and more people wearing them, but right now not a lot of people do. So it's a tough situation, right? Because we're in the middle of an incubation period. There's this 2 weeks, maybe more, where we're expecting to see people that don't know they're infected that going and spreading this as if they're carriers, right? And that's probably one of the most dangerous time periods, because after that we'll see more infections in North America, and then more people will be concerned, and then wearing one of these will become actually a little bit more normal, I would say, right? And more acceptable. You're not the weirdo on the plane if you're wearing one of these. I look extremely weird when I'm wearing one of these. I'm going to show you that why. Because when I'm on a plane, even before this came out, I don't want you talking to me. I want to just get on the plane, do my work, listen to my music, watch a movie, and just get it over with. I don't really want to get on a plane to make friends. And I definitely don't want to interact with the normal ongoing sequence of events that takes place on a plane. I've watched the emergency safety video hundreds of times, and I really don't need to watch it again. I don't want the crackers. I don't want the peanuts. I just want to be left alone and do my stuff. So I have a few different things I wear, which I'm going to show you, and I'm going to do a video on that at some point, how to increase your experience on the plane. But I have these, right? So these are one of the things I have, my noise canceling headphones. So I have these on, right? That's great. So I turn on the noise cancellation. I can watch Netflix, listen to some music, feel relatively undisturbed. Now, when you take that, and that's my normal state, right? So when I'm sleeping, I'll put in earplugs as well, which makes it even better. But you combine that with this, and it's just hideously ridiculous looking. So let's just take a look at that really quick, okay? What that looks like. So this is a traditional, oh, I got it on upside down. Oh, there we go. Yeah, you got to watch out for that, because the little silver piece is at the top, and that's what you want on your bridge of your nose so that you can then adjust it, okay? So there we go. That's what that looks like. Now you combine it with these guys, and that's something only a mother would love. So yeah, people start walking down the aisle, and then they see that, and they're like, oh my God. So definitely get some weird looks from that. Hard to talk out of these. So generally when I'm in the plane and they're offering me beverages and stuff, I'm just like, no, don't want any of that. So yeah, so right now it's quite socially awkward. I guess I could put it that way, to wear one of these. That's the price I'm willing to pay at this point, to wear one of these and to not get sick. The other thing I do, of course, is I turn the vent on above me for the airflow, to get that nice stream of air going past my face, because if this person sneezes, my thought is that it will just blow that away as quickly as possible. And the ventilation on the plane is typically fairly good quality. And if there is some filtration there, we're not all breathing in this gross air. Of course, it's not like, if you're on the beach or something, but it's not as bad, I think, as people say. So I want to increase that flow past my face. So I'm currently wearing one of those on the plane and within North America, and it's very awkward. I think it will get better. I think as travelers, you should carry that in your pack. I keep one in the Ziploc bag. I do that. And I also have gloves. I'm typically not wearing gloves yet on the plane, but I think that if we see the infection rate go up even a little bit, I'm going to start doing that. What we see from a lot of health organizations is some advice that just says, don't worry, you don't need to wear masks, just wash your hands and face a lot. And I don't really think that's good advice. And I'm not sure. I think what we're seeing right now is the news and the government health organizations don't want people to panic, which, fine. I agree. We don't want people to panic. We don't want somebody to go out and buy all the toilet paper, at Costco. And that's what we're seeing in places like Hong Kong, where supplies like that, like toilet paper, pretty important supply to have, are being sold out and people can't find any. And that's a problem. We don't want that. Sure. But I also don't want to get the coronavirus. So, I think, I'm just being selfish, but I would prefer not to get it before a vaccine comes out. Once a vaccine comes out, yeah, sure, no problem. Give me the vaccine and I won't wear gloves or this silly mask anymore. I don't like wearing the mask. So believe me, if I thought I didn't have to, I wouldn't. But I don't think good advice for people is just wash their hands. If you look at these places in China, where, a lot of people are getting it, they're not wearing a mask. they're not just washing their hands. Yes, they're washing their hands all the time. Yeah, sure. Purell and everything else, but they're wearing these masks. And there's a reason for that, because they don't want to get sick and they don't want their family to get sick. They don't want to bring it home to their families, right? They don't want to have any risk of a fatality in their family. So I'm going to wear a mask. And I think that's garbage to say don't, right? I think that it's a good idea, especially to contain this so that it doesn't spread. If you see what's going on the cruise ships right now, especially the cruise ship in Japan, the last I heard, there was 70 people on that cruise ship that had come down with it. And cruises are typically for people that, not everybody. Lots of young people take cruises, I'm sure, but you'll see a lot of older people on cruise ships because it's well suited for that age category. So some of those people are going to die, probably, right? Not very good. I think they're stuck in these cramped quarters. The air circulation on a cruise ship is, I probably would guess, not as good as a plane. I don't know. I'm not an expert, but I would think it's not as good. I've heard stories about you can smell it if other people are smoking in their rooms and things like that. So I would guess the filtration perhaps would not be as good. But yeah, so I think that's a bit of a terrible health hazard to be stuck on a ship like that, just waiting to get sick. So I think that people wearing masks, especially on something that's fairly short duration, like a plane, where you know that you're getting a bunch of people from all around the world that are now joining you in that enclosed space. But the bigger thing to me as a traveler that I'm thinking about is they're spending probably 15 minutes cleaning that plane. And I know, because of the things that I find when I sit down, that they don't clean it very well. So they are not sterilizing everything. They're not spraying the plane with any sort of chemicals. They're not even really like picking up all the garbage, right? So when I sit down, I expect to have to wash my clothes when I get off the plane. And I do, because I just feel gross when I get out of a plane, typically, right? Because I know they're so dirty. And that's just normal. That's not with a coronavirus or anything else. So when I sit down now, I'm thinking, okay, so I'm breathing through the mask. My ventilation part of it is pretty safe. I don't have anything to protect my eyes. So theoretically, my neighbor could sneeze in my eyes and I could get the coronavirus. But also, I'm touching a bunch of stuff. And that's my primary concern right now, is with my hand. Maybe I'll touch the tray and then I'll stick it in my eyes and then I'm going to get sick. So that's one of the bigger concerns that I have these days. And so gloves may be something that I will wear at some point. So if I'm going to travel, I'm going to reduce my travel, I think, is the next step, right? And I've already canceled some trips to, Singapore and some other places that I was planning to go to. And, I think that's one component that will happen. And then perhaps we will get into wearing full eye gear and things like that. But I think if you're getting to that stage and you're traveling, now your risk level has gone up considerably, right? And so I think that at that point, people will just stop flying quite a bit more. What it looks like right now is the governments really don't want that to happen. They really don't want people to stop flying because, of course, that's going to really hurt commerce and the world trade and everything like that. And that's going to cause problems, a chain reaction, all sorts of problems. So they don't want to do that. They prefer people fly, even if we will, have an increased risk of catching the virus. So your own choice. I think it depends on where you're going. You're going to have to make some evaluation. That's why it's really important to look at the incoming information on the particular destination that you're going to see if that's worthwhile for the risk, right? There are certain places that have a very low infection rate. Is that because they're not detecting it or because it's just not there? Again, something that you're personally going to have to investigate into. So I'm a little bit, I like to be ahead of the curve. So one of the things that I'm looking at is, okay, what if this situation comes to North America where it's as bad, excuse me, as some of the places in China? What if we are restricted to how often we can go out and buy things? And unlikely that it will get to that event in North America, for sure. I totally get that. But what if we do get to that point where we're not able to travel anymore, but what's worse is now we're kind of confined to stop the spread of it. We are really confined to our houses and we're working out of our living quarters, right? What if we were to get to that stage? Now, I'm not a prepper. I don't have a garage full of supplies. I got a lot of junk, as you can see behind me, because I like to do a lot of sporting events. I'm always traveling. and so I do have a lot of debris in my office here. However, I'm not really a prepper, but I do, do a lot of analysis of what this could get to. And what if it did? What if we had, say, a week or a month or, a few months of where we were sheltering in place, waiting for this to go by, and doing very much like what they did in China. So, of course, I want a little bit of food. I want some toilet paper. I want some bleach. I want some water and things like that. So I've kind of started to buy some things just to have my inventory levels a little bit higher than I normally would. And I'm not a prepper. Again, I don't really know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about preparing for this sort of thing. But I'm just kind of, it's in the back of my mind. So I bought a few extra cans of things and stuff like that. And I went a little bit crazy, a little bit overboard, and I bought one of these. Now, this is the scariest looking thing that I probably own. This is an Israeli gas mask. It's a Army surplus, and it cost me about 40 bucks. And it's ridiculous. My wife saw some people wearing this in Costco the other day. And yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous, right? So worst case scenario, this is going to be my new Halloween costume, right? Well, actually, that's best case scenario, I suppose, depending on which way you look at it, because it looks so scary. Usually, I'm Jason for Halloween, which is scary because it's got the glow in the dark mask. But this is probably equally scary in the dark. And but I thought, you know what? Not too expensive. It actually works because what you're looking for is for anything that will seal around your face. And if you've got a beard, that's going to be extra tricky. But those, as good as they are, those N95 masks don't always perfectly seal around your face, right? And this will. So let's say we are in a situation where I have to kind of shelter in place. I go out every couple of days to get groceries. Going to the grocery store would be the highest risk that I would face. But if all the people are going there, then of course it's going to be much more risky, right? So if we're in that state ever, maybe this passes and we have another pandemic down the road or something like that, at least I'm prepared, and I've got this, thing that cost me, I think it was 40 bucks. And it's got these filters that you can get, which are P3 filters. That's all you need. It's kind of the equivalent of P100, it says on there. So even, I think that's the North American version of a P3. It's a particulate filter. I think it was $16, and it's sealed, and it hasn't expired yet. 2026 is when it expires. So that's good to go, because a lot of these expire really quickly. Like this came with this filter here, which has got some other language on it. And it's, I wouldn't trust this at all. Some of them have asbestos in them. If they're from World War II, I don't think this particular one does, but some of them do. So I've got that. That came with the mask as part of the price. And then there's this thing that I got. I don't know why I bought this. I got this off of eBay, and it's kind of sealed, but the seal is broken, of course. So then how long do they last? And it's, well, it's made in China, so hopefully the coronavirus didn't come with it. Because that's one of the things I'm worried about too, right? If I'm buying stuff from China and it's coming over from China, and then it's, what if somebody was infected and shipped it, was the manufacturer, or, there's all sorts of risks there. So now I always look at what part of China it actually came from before it gets here. So I want to be careful that way. And I think that could be a growing concern if this gets worse and worse. But yeah, so this is like a P2, which is not as good as a P3. So there's a couple different filters you can get, and they go right on here. If you're going to be as silly as me and go buy one of these just in preparation for like worst case scenario, this is a pretty good value mask. It's the Israeli one. I think this is the M15, I think it is. There's a cheaper version to this even, but this is like for, $10 more. It looks a little more comfortable. It's got a voice modulator thing here. And again, I'm not a gas mask expert, so I may be getting some of this wrong, but this is my understanding of it. This is for your voice, and you can actually talk and people can hear you pretty well. This is where the filter goes, just screws into there. And this is a 40 millimeter screw in. And this here is the outtake, which is nice on the bottom, I think, because any moisture will theoretically drip down to here. This here is a drinking straw, which I've heard people say don't bother using, because if you're having a drink in an area that's contaminated, that's just bad news. So I just put the straw away and I don't use it. But let me show you what this looks like, just because it's so ridiculous when I try to put it on here. Okay. So you can tighten all this stuff up, you know, to fit your face, but like it fits pretty good. It's actually quite comfortable, you know, and what you can do to test, and I haven't even done these up that tight. Like these are loose. These are, you know, not uncomfortably tight, but, and this is loose as well. But I can already feel like a diver's mask. It's kind of made this seal around here, which is pretty good. That's what you're looking for, right? You're looking for the seal around your face. You're also looking, you know, to be able to, you know, breathe and operate and everything like that. But the seal around your face, and then you want to be able to see what you're doing. This one has got these two lenses. I think that if you want to spend more money, you could get a full lens, like one big piece, one big windshield. That will give you better visibility, and it looks a little bit less scary, I think, right? So this was about 40 bucks. If you spend about 100 bucks, you're going to get a more full face shield with more modern style, perhaps, right? So that would be pretty good. To check to see if it's actually making a good seal, I don't have the filter on right now, but if I plug this, and then try to breathe, you can see the whole thing compresses. That's very uncomfortable to do that. It feels like I'm suffocating, but you can see the whole thing suck in when I went to breathe, right? And that's how you kind of check the seal, just kind of like you would do with the diver's mask, right? When you're breathing in or out of your nose, you can suck it into your face. So yeah, it works really well. You know, let me take off. Yeah, so it's comfortable, but it's hard to talk in one of these. So you wouldn't want to be doing a speech or something wearing one of these. One of the things I looked for was, of course, the seal. The other thing is the year it was manufactured, and somewhere in here it says it, and it's old. Like it must be. What do I got going on here? Saw the date here somewhere. 91. I see it says 91 right there. So maybe that's the expiry date. Maybe that's the date it was made. I don't know, but that was a long time ago, right? But it doesn't seem to matter because the rubber is still excellent condition. If this was a dive mask and I was looking at it, I'd say, yeah, no problem. I'll dive with that. So it works quite well, and it forms a seal around my face, which is really what I'm looking for, right? So that's the crazy that I bought. You know, I don't wear it on a plane. I don't ever intend to wear that on a plane or when I'm traveling. I don't think we'll get to that level. I see that the people that are being brought over, evacuated from China on a plane, the people that are doing the work, the first responders on the plane, are wearing that sort of equipment. I mean, they have the full body, full hazmat suit with the full mask and ventilator and everything. So I don't think travelers will do that, but I think first responders definitely should be set up with something like that. If we have the quarantine hospitals here set up for people, then I would expect the first responders to be wearing that, or the medical staff to be wearing that. But we'll see. But yeah, so I've got one just in case I ever need it. But again, I think on the plane, these are your best bet. Oh, and I almost forgot before I finish, I want to show you the little secret that I learned about wearing these. So when I've been wearing these, I've been wearing them the standard way, which is just like over the face, bring it down, make sure that this thing is over your nose, and then you can push it and mold it to your face. And what you want to do is make sure you've got a seal. I find down here is the tricky part, depending on your chin. And then, of course, here, right? Like I've got a very thin nose, and so I have to bend that to make sure that it seals here, right? And I think that's the trick as far as getting the fit. But I'm going to show you the modification. So what you'll find is after an hour or two, this strap here will drive you crazy, because what it wants to do is it wants to slide. Oh, it even hurts just doing that. This wants to slide down the back of your head, and depending on the shape of the back of your head, this will be, you know, better or worse. But it will, like right here, it will cut into your ear. And oh man, is that ever, like, it drives me crazy. So all the way like through the plane ride, I'm doing this, and I'm trying to ride this up like that. And that actually helps a little bit for sure. but inevitably it just comes down like that. And see, look at my ears, right? That's pretty hideous. But it just hurts. So what I've been taught by people that are smarter than me is drop that one down there and then bring this one up like that. And you see how you got that crisscrossy kind of look there? Now, not only does that kind of make this pull in a little bit more, but it also, it avoids this kind of like downward pressure on the ear right here. And so this is what, I mean, I'm not a doctor, I'm not an expert in masks, but strictly from somebody who's been wearing one of these on the plane for like 2 months now, this feels way better. And I think it technically, it seems a little bit more structurally better as well. So try it out if you're going to wear one of these. And I do recommend people start wearing these. So try that out. Hopefully that helps you a little bit and makes your experience a little more comfortable. My maximum time wearing one of these was about 3.5 hours. And the first hour is no problem, except for people kind of looking at you. Funny if they're not wearing one. The experience is when you sit down and put one on, people will look at you for one of two reasons usually. The first reason they look at you is because they think that you're weird, which could be true in my case. And that's okay, you get used to that. The second reason they're going to look at you funny is because they think that you're sick and you might be contagious. And so I get that a lot too. So the people sitting next to me will see me put it on and then immediately look for something to cover their mouth, their intake with, right? So the one lady that was sitting next to me, for example, took her scarf and wrapped it around her face like this and pulled it up right after she looked over at me, putting my mask on. So I'm okay with that. I would say be a bit careful if you're on a plane and you're putting yours on. What I like to do is get on the plane first, then put it on, because if I'm going in and I look like I'm contagious or I'm sick, my fear is they just won't let you on the plane. So that's what I do. I think if it gets worse, more people are going to wear masks, and then it won't be this weird thing to do. But for now, that's what I would recommend. So again, very much like what I've said before, wash your hands, wash your face, but really protect your face. Like don't touch the plane or the seat and then stick your fingers in your eyes or in your mouth. If you wear gloves, the benefit of wearing gloves is not only does it protect your hands, but it reminds you not to stick your hands in your eyes or in your mouth or up your nose or wherever you want to put them, right? Because that's how we're typically getting sick, is we're touching something and then touching ourselves, and that's bad news. So because that's how we're typically getting sick, is we're touching something and then touching ourselves, and that's bad news. So resist and just kind of update you on what I see in planes and airports right now. So again, bit of a stigma around wearing the mask. People are looking down upon it. The government's saying you don't need to. I disagree with that. I would say if you don't want to get sick, that's a good way to prevent it, especially right now when we're still trying to understand what's going on and how bad the risk is. So hopefully that helps you. If you've got any questions, just put them in the comments below. I really like to see those questions so that I can make videos in the future that are even better and more focused on what you're looking for. So until then, happy travels and stay safe out there. Bye.